This is Appalling News, your most trusted source for fake real news. I'm Paul Chatto. As is usually the case, we will ignore global events of human consequence and instead bring you Glamour Magazine's Women of the Year Award recipients, 9 fetching trans-identifying individuals. The controversy isn't because trans hominids are participating in the fashion industry version of the Westminster Kennel Club show. Fashion has always been a home for all manner of gay and divergent individuals, from the extremely talented, the outrageous, to those who need their laptops searched. The controversy is in reference to Glamour's Women of the Year accolade, which, instead of going to 9 calorically abused women, will be stolen by 9 alleged geldings. But let's start with Glamour's headline: The Dolls. What we really crave is to work, love, and exist with dignity. Don't we all, sugar? But by dignity, what they really mean is access to the Sistine Chapel, the Spring Temple Buddha, the Pyramid of Giza. In other words, access to women's toilets. Ground zero for trans activists. If they can't march unfettered into women's washrooms, they won't return the hostages. Next, we get the cut line. As trans rights face increasing threat in the UK, Glamour honors 9 of the community's most groundbreaking voices at this year's Women of the Year Awards. From fashion and music to charity and activism work, these trailblazers work tirelessly to empower, uplift, and celebrate trans voices. The problem here is that we all enjoy the same rights. The trans rights they are referring to are actually special accommodations to women's spaces and taxpayer-funded access to the Orwellian appellation gender-affirming care. For weepy, feminized progressives, men wanting to be women makes them trailblazers. No other significant accomplishment is required. If you can fit those size 13s into a pair of Manolos, you're a trailblazer. But let's get back to the selection of these particular individuals. They weren't picked because of their activism or charity work, or tirelessly uplifting and celebrating trans voices. They were picked because they didn't look like gorillas in drag. All these walking billboards for plastic surgery clinics might be able to pass in a women's washroom, but maybe things wouldn't be as inflamed if they would get together and encourage the obvious blokes in frocks to just hit the gents. Like this formerly popular transgender TikToker in Australia, Rachel Queen Burton, who these days is otherwise occupied. We would never compare Rachel to any of the lucky Glamour participants. And speaking of pants, of course Appalling News had to know what's in them. Our crack research team on crack provided the following information. 8 out of the 9 fashionistas came up as no public confirmation. Only Monroe Bergdorf has publicly admitted to having desausaging surgery. And this sample here still seems to be packing. Let's get back to the article. Now trans people, and especially trans women, are facing a committed attempt from anti-trans pressure groups and right-wing politicians to make exclusionary policy the default across British public life, including toilets, changing rooms, leisure facilities, workplaces, hospital wards, and crisis support services. The intention is clear: to drive us out of public life, to repress, then deny our existence. This is, of course, nonsense. No one is denying your existence. How could we? The problem with this sentence is that it disingenuously leaves off the possessive noun women's, as in women's toilet, women's changing rooms, women's leisure facilities, women's hospital wards, and women's crisis support services. No one is excluding you, darling. If your key fits, they must admit. But does all this attention help Glamour? The magazine has been on life support. In the UK, Glamour's monthly print circulation dropped significantly from 350,000 per month to just 248,000 over a single year. In 2018, parent publisher Condé Nast announced that Glamour would end its regular monthly print edition in the US. Glamour's probability of default has risen significantly. We don't think this stunt will revitalize the magazine. In the meantime, we also wondered how the Protect the Dolls campaign is working. Women generally don't like being called doll, and neither does Grok, it seems. Doll is old-fashioned and objectifying. It reduces someone to a pretty passive plaything. Is it any wonder, then, it has captured the support of Hollywood's pretty passive plaything dimwits? So, calling them dolls confirms they are not women? Thanks for the confirmation. Perhaps Glamour should have called this issue Dolls of the Year. Of course, J.K. Rowling, the queen of sanity, weighed in with this ex-post. I grew up in an era when mainstream women's magazines told girls they needed to be thinner and prettier. Now, mainstream women's magazines tell girls that men are better women than they are. We couldn't agree with you more, Joe. As we always say here at Appalling News, men make the best women. Stay tuned next week when we will be featuring 2025's Cars of the Year. This is Appalling News, and that's the way it is.